But it is hard, and that's also partly why I think it's so important too that we do, like, if I had to say right now what I think, where I think we're probably going to find the best evidence for UFO, I don't know, for UFOs even existing in the atmosphere or something,
mm-hmm.
I would say it's probably going to come from either a military sighting or a sighting with a good video and radar confirmation or something like that. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to not look at abduction cases or, I don't know, other kind of close encounters or, calls from people who are just, everyday people, whatever, right? We have to be open to all that data because you don't know. We don't know until we look.
And I think, too, that as I guess the good side of it, as much as I hate the whole fake news, angle for things, as much as I hate people, and that's the problem is it's just that if you don't believe it, you don't want to believe it, you call it fake news, but then, anything online that is probably fake, if it's what you want to believe, you just buy into it.
Right.
And that's, but I do think that one good offshoot of that can be the fact that people aren't going to know what to believe or what not to believe, so they're going to be more open to possibilities. And I do think that that's going to make people start to question more and more, hey, maybe that light that I saw in the sky wasn't a plane. Maybe I shouldn't just so quickly dismiss it. So, I think we're probably going to see an uptick in reports, not only just based on society today, but also in this branching out of philosophy of what it is exactly that you're going to be researching and looking for.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, I mean, that'd be great. I hope so. I hope that, I don't know, actually. It's interesting. I'm actually thinking, I wonder, so one thing that we find to be very, one thing that we've noticed at least, or I've noticed going through these cases now and just in reading about this topic generally, is you'll have cases where someone will say, I saw we had a case recently. We had a case recently here in Minnesota where a person he's had now multiple sightings of what he believes to be the same craft, and he's stated that this craft is hovered near his home, kind of like not near his home, but near his route to get to work, right? So as he's leaving early in the morning, he sees this craft. He's seen it like 2-3 times over the course of a year or two. And at one juncture when he saw this thing, it hovered and then it kind of took off. It accelerated kind of in a way that would suggest that it's not under the same bounds of kind of ballistic propulsion that we utilize. And in that one instance, though, that he saw it take off, there were 3 other cars on the road stopped looking at the thing with him. And those people just drove away. They never reported anything to MUFON, right? And there have been other cases, too, where he's actually been driving along on the highway and he has claimed to see something, and then everyone else acts like they don't see it, right? Or you even have cases where someone will say, I saw a being, or I was abducted out of my home, but no one else woke up. No one else seemed to notice that anything weird happened that night, right? So it becomes a question of literally being open to the experience, right? And it's actually something that, I'm sure you're probably more well versed in this than I am. But you look at the history of, let's say, demonology, right, or kind of ghostly encounters, and one idea that crops up a lot is the idea that you have to invite something in,
mm-hmm.
right? You won't just have an experience out of nowhere. You have to be open to the experience, whether that's positive or negative in some way or whatever. And in some weird ways, that's kind of also the case for UFOs, right? We have members who will say, I never seen anything, and then I started coming to these meetings and I saw a craft. I finally saw one, right? And so it becomes a question of, well, is it that they're always out there and people are just tuning them out, right? Kind of like, how many times a day do you see a sparrow or a bluebird or something?
Right.
Right? Like, they're so common in Massachusetts that it just becomes part of the surroundings, right? Have we been so tuned to that over our lifetimes that we just kind of zone it out? We don't even notice a weird light in the sky that's out of place unless we're looking for it.
Right. It's kind of like it's kind of like what they call blue car syndrome. you know, where you know, it used to be blue car because you went out and bought a blue car, but now it's even more specific. You know, you go out and you buy a brand new black Dodge Charger, and all of a sudden you're seeing black Dodge Chargers everywhere when you never realized they were all out there before. Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of that same idea, and so that's another interesting aspect.
I just said that because I want a black Dodge Charger,
right? Or is it a real thing? What's going on, right? So, but yeah, I don't know. I honestly, one thing that's been really interesting is seeing the increase in actual cases that are coming in from outside the United States. So, so if you actually, I don't know if you know this, you can actually, did you know that you can actually look at the cases that come into MUFON like every day if you want?
Yeah, I know that, because usually what happens when we get reports of something is we go and we look and see if there's been other similar reports for the area. Sure.
Okay, yeah. So a lot of people I've talked to even people that are like, again, same level of like investment as us, where they're actually investigating these things or whatever. They'll be like, you know, well, no, I had no idea that information was available to the public. But so for listeners that may not know, you can go to MUFON.com and look at our UFO tracker and actually look at the cases as they come in. I don't suggest doing it at night because it is spooky to some people. But it is an interesting pastime. It's something cool that you can go into.
And one of the
you can see. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, one of the things that I've always wondered too is why MUFON doesn't put more of an effort to reach out to the Air Force, to airports, to law enforcement, so that when people call these organizations to report UFOs, they don't have that information handy to say, okay, well, why don't you just call MUFON or report this to MUFON or go on the MUFON website? Because it's not like you know, the random, you know, country bumpkin cop out in the middle of nowhere is giving credence to the idea of UFOs existing. It's just basically saying, hey, that's not our area. Report it to these guys. They handle that.
Right. I don't want to deal with this call right now.
Right.
But yeah, that's a good question.
You know, they have the Good Samaritan's phone number right next to the phone in every police station, so they can give you that number if, you know, you need to call. They should have MUFON right next to the phone as well.
Right. Well, you know what? I think part of the reason, honestly, is that MUFON, the UFO community's relationship with government and with like institutions has been shaky at best.
Understandable.
Right. You know what I mean? And I think at the same time too, I do think there are as MUFON gets older and as these military members get older and start to retire and you know come out of jobs that might keep them from being more actively involved in this. We are actually starting to have that kind of relationship in some areas, but again, it can be a hard sell. Right. Both in terms of, you know, the cops don't even want to, you know, why would they waste our time calling us in the first place? And then also, you know, the sense of, you know, I don't know, the sense of reluctance, I think, on the part of a state director or a field investigator or something to give their name and information out to another person. Right.
Right.
But no, I mean, that's a huge thing. And I think it is an important thing that MUFON needs to start doing more of, let's say, is making it clear that, you know, we are interested in everything. If it's as simple as seeing a star in the sky or a light that seems to zigzag around or something that you can't explain or whatever, we want to hear about it.